It was supposed to be an ordinary flight from Washington, D.C. to Nevada. Families boarded with sleepy children, businessmen opened their laptops, and travelers searched for their seats. In row 12, seated by the window, a young girl, barely 15, quietly buckled herself in. She looked too small for the weight she carried in her eyes. The crew noticed her worn backpack and the silence with which she sat, staring out at the runway. To everyone else, she was just another kid traveling alone. But to men flying high above in F-22 Raptors, she was more than that. She carried a call sign that belonged to legends. The flight took off smoothly, engines roaring against the night sky. While others ordered drinks and flipped through magazines, the girl in 12F remained still. She wasn't anxious, nor was she distracted. She carried herself with an odd calmness for someone so young. A flight attendant leaned down to ask if she was okay. The girl smiled politely and whispered, "I'm fine, ma'am." What no one knew was that this child had been born into a life of service, one shadowed by sacrifice. Her father had been one of the Air Force's most respected pilots, a man whose call sign was spoken with reverence even among hardened veterans. Mid-flight, turbulence rattled the cabin. The captain's voice came through the intercom, steadier than the shaking seats. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some unusual activity in our airspace. Please remain calm." Outside, something was happening that passengers could not see. Unidentified aircraft had breached the restricted zone. Within minutes, NORAD scrambled a squadron of F-22 Raptors to intercept. The passengers had no idea, but the girl in seat 12F pressed her forehead to window, eyes narrowing. She knew the sound of jet engines before anyone else on that flight did. Moments later, the captain walked down the aisle, tense but collected. He paused at seat 12F, looking directly at the girl. "Excuse me," he said softly. "Are you, by any chance, related to Falcon 1? The cabin around them went silent, confused by the strange question. The girl nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. "Falcon 1 was my father," she replied. Gasps spread among the passengers. The captain stood taller. He had once served under Falcon 1, an ace pilot whose bravery had saved countless lives before he perished on a mission overseas. The captain whispered, "Your presence here explains everything." The aircraft shook again as shadows swept across the windows. Outside, sleek silhouettes of F-22 Raptors appeared, flying in formation alongside the passenger jet. The passengers craned their necks in disbelief. The little girl in 12F pressed her hand against the window, and one of the Raptors dipped its wing in acknowledgement. Then came the moment no one expected. The lead pilot's voice broke over the radio and through the cabin speakers. "Requesting confirmation, does passenger seat 12F carry the Falcon 1 legacy?" The captain looked at the girl, and she gave the slightest nod. The pilot's next words froze everyone's hearts. "All units, stand at attention." In perfect synchronization, the F-22 straightened, wings locked in precise military formation. It wasn't a maneuver of war, but of honor. Every jet outside tilted slightly in a salute, a gesture reserved only for heroes. Passengers inside the commercial plane stared in awe, realizing that the kid among them was a daughter of fallen legend. The girl's call sign, inherited from her father, carried the weight of history. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "Dad, they remember you." The flight continued under protection of the Raptors, but the passengers were no longer restless or afraid. They sat in reverent silence, aware they were witnessing something extraordinary. The girl in 12F closed her eyes and remembered nights when her father tucked her in, telling her stories about the skies, about courage, about what it meant to protect others even at great cost. His call sign, Falcon 1, wasn't just a name, it was a promise. Now, in her presence, the Air Force honored that promise. As the aircraft approached its destination, the F-22s remained in formation until the last possible moment. When the commercial jet began its descent, the lead pilot spoke once more. "For Falcon 1's daughter, welcome home." Then one by one, the Raptors broke off into the night sky. The passengers erupted into applause, some crying, some saluting. The captain placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "You may be young," he said, "but your father's legacy is alive in you. And tonight, we all stood at attention because of it." Like the video and subscribe to channel Storysphere.